Kate Morrison's hand trembled on the revolver as Harrison Blackwell reached for her youngest child. She'd begged every door in Deadwood. Every door had closed. Now the banker stood in her camp legal papers in hand, promising her sons would be better off, separated in workhouses across the territory. Elizabeth whimpered behind her mother's skirt. Nathaniel raised his fists. Samuel just stared silent since the mine collapse that killed their father. Kate cocked the hammer. "You'll take them over my dead body." Blackwell smiled. "That can be arranged, Mrs. Morrison." Before we continue, subscribe and follow this story to the end. Comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far our story travels. Now, let's begin where Kate's world fell apart. The bank door closed with a sound like a coffin lid. Kate stood on the wooden sidewalk, 3 children pressed against her skirts, and understood what it meant to be invisible. Behind the frosted glass, Harrison Blackwell sat at his desk. She could see his silhouette. He could see hers. He turned his back. "Mama!" Nathaniel's voice cracked on the word. He was 12, trying to be a man, failing at it the way 12-year-olds always did. "We'll try the boarding house," Kate said. Samuel said nothing. He hadn't spoken in 3 weeks. Not since he'd watched the mine shaft collapse. Not since he'd seen the rocks that killed his father. Elizabeth tugged Kate's sleeve, pointed at the bakery window. Mrs. Chen was pulling bread from the oven, golden and steaming. Kate's stomach clenched. They'd eaten the last of the dried beef 2 days ago. "Not today, sweetheart." The boarding house sat at the end of Main Street, painted white, respectable. Mrs. Abigail Pritchard kept it clean, kept it proper, kept it free of anything that might damage her reputation. Kate knocked. The door opened 6 inches. Mrs. Pritchard's face appeared in the gap, pale and pinched. Her eyes traveled from Kate's worn dress to the children's thin shoulders to the wagon parked at the hitching post. Everything they owned packed into 2 battered trunks. "Mrs. Morrison." "Mrs. Pritchard." Kate kept her voice steady. "I'm hoping you might have a room available, just until I find work. I don't rent to women without husbands. I can pay." Kate pulled coins from her pocket. $3. 4. Everything left after buying the wagon in Rapid City. "For 1 week. That's all I need." Mrs. Pritchard's mouth tightened. "It's not about money." "Then what?" "Reputation. Mrs. Morrison, mine and yours. A woman alone with 3 children, no man to speak for her people talk." Nathaniel stepped forward. "I'm the man of the family now." Mrs. Pritchard looked at him the way someone might look at a dog that had learned a clever trick. Amused. Pitying. "I'm sure you are, dear. But 12 years old doesn't count in the eyes of the law, or the church, or anyone who matters." Kate felt Elizabeth's hand tighten on her skirt. Felt Samuel's silence like a weight. Felt Nathaniel's humiliation burning through his threadbare coat. "Please," Kate said quietly. "The storm's coming. I can see it in the sky. We just need shelter for the night." "Should have thought of that before you came to Deadwood." Mrs. Pritchard stepped back. "Good evening." The door closed. The lock clicked. Kate stood on the porch. Snow had started falling, thick flakes that caught in Elizabeth's pale hair. Across the street, Harrison Blackwell stood in the bank window, arms crossed, watching. His face wore something that wasn't quite a smile, but wasn't quite not a smile either. She'd seen that expression before. On the face of the mine foreman who'd told her Thomas was dead. On the faces of the creditors who'd taken their house in payment for mining company debts her husband never knew he'd signed for. On the face of every man who'd ever looked at a woman with children and seen opportunity instead of people. "Ma?" Nathaniel's voice was small now. The man was gone. The boy was back. "What do we do?" Kate looked at her wagon. 1 horse, old and tired. 2 trunks. 3 children. No money left. No family within 200 miles. No options except the trail leading out of town into the dark hills beyond. The temperature was dropping. She could feel it in her bones the way she'd learned to feel weather during 6 years on the frontier. This wasn't just snow. This was a blizzard coming, the kind that killed travelers, the kind that buried camps and didn't give up bodies until spring. "We'll make camp past the ridge," she said. "In the snow." Nathaniel's voice rose. "We've camped in worse." They hadn't. But she couldn't let him know that. Couldn't let any of them know that her hands were shaking, that her chest was tight, that she wanted to sit down in the mud and weep until the world made sense again. She climbed onto the wagon seat. Elizabeth huddled beside her, silent as her brother. Nathaniel pulled himself up on the other side jaw, set eyes burning with the kind of anger that came from understanding too much, too young. Samuel crouched in the back, knees pulled to his chest, staring at nothing. The wagon creaked forward. Every window on Main Street glowed warm and golden. Every door stayed shut. Kate counted them as they passed. 15 buildings, 47 windows. Not one opened. Not one voice called out. Mrs. Chen stood in the bakery doorway watching. Kate met her eyes. The Chinese woman's face was sad, but not sad enough to act. She stepped back inside. They reached the edge of town. Kate looked back once. Deadwood sat in its valley like a judgment, all light and warmth and locked doors. Smoke rose from chimneys. Laughter drifted from the saloon. Life continued for people who belonged. She turned the wagon north. The trail climbed into darkness. Snow gathered on the children's shoulders, on the horse's mane, on Kate's hands, where they gripped the reins. The temperature dropped 10 degrees in 10 minutes. The wind rose, cutting through wool and cotton like it wasn't there. "Mama," Elizabeth whispered. The first word she'd spoken in 2 days. "I'm cold." "I know, baby. We'll stop soon." "Where?" Kate didn't answer. There was nowhere. The trail led into wilderness, into hills empty of everything except timber and cold and animals that came out after dark. She'd heard stories about mountain lions, about wolves, about men who lived in the high country and didn't welcome visitors. But the alternative was Deadwood. Was Harrison Blackwell and his legal papers. Was the county orphanage that split up families and sold children to farmers who needed labor more than they needed morality. She'd die first. She'd let them all die first. The thought came clear and cold and true. And terrifying. Because she meant it. They were 2 miles out when she saw him. A rider on the ridge above, silhouette sharp against the last gray light of evening. Motionless. Watching. Waiting. Kate's hand moved to the rifle under the seat. The rider began to descend. He came slowly, picking his way down the rocky slope. A big man on a bigger horse, both of them moving with the careful economy of creatures who knew the mountains. As he got closer, Kate could make out details. A dark coat, a wide-brimmed hat, pulled low gloves, a bedroll tied behind the saddle. And something else. Something in the way he sat his horse, slightly tilted, favoring his left side. An old injury. A limp maybe when he walked. He stopped 10 feet from the wagon. For a long moment, nobody spoke. The snow fell between them. The wind howled. The horse snorted, breath steaming. Then he said, "Follow me." His voice was low, rough, like it hadn't been used much lately. Not friendly, but not cruel either. Just factual. Kate's hand stayed on the rifle. "I don't know you." "No, ma'am." "I don't take charity from strangers." "Ain't charity. That trail you're on goes nowhere. Ends in a deadfall about 3 miles up. You'll be stuck by midnight, frozen by dawn." "We'll manage." He looked at the children. Nathaniel glaring, trying to be brave. Samuel staring, gone somewhere far away. Elizabeth shivering so hard her teeth clicked. "No," the man said quietly. "You won't." Kate opened her mouth, closed it. The truth was a stone in her chest. He was right. She knew it. She'd known it when she left town, known it when she chose death over surrender. known it in the way only a mother could know that her pride was about to kill her babies. "Why?" she asked. "Why what? Why help us?" "You don't know us. We can't pay you. We've got nothing except trouble." He turned his horse. "Follow or don't, your choice." He started riding. Kate sat frozen. Every instinct screamed danger. Strange man, remote location woman alone with children, she'd heard enough stories to know how they ended. But Elizabeth whispered, "Mama, please." And Samuel's eyes found hers for the first time in 3 weeks. Present. Aware. Afraid. And Nathaniel said, "I think we should trust him." Kate picked up the reins. They followed. The trail narrowed, winding through pine trees that blocked the worst of the wind. The stranger rode ahead, never looking back, never checking to see if they kept up. Confident. Like he knew these mountains the way Kate knew her children's faces. 20 minutes passed. The snow thickened. Visibility dropped to 50 feet, then 30, then 20. Kate could barely see the rider ahead, just a dark shape moving through white. Then he stopped. A cabin appeared like something from a dream. Small but solid weathered logs, chinked tight against the wind. Smoke rose from the chimney. A barn stood behind it, door open, golden light spilling out. And beyond that, Kate's breath caught. 2 graves, side by side. Wooden crosses. Recent enough that the wood hadn't grayed yet. The rider dismounted, moved to the cabin door, opened it. Firelight poured out warm and welcoming, and somehow sad. "Inside," he said. "All of you." The children scrambled down. Nathaniel helped Samuel. Kate lifted Elizabeth, felt how light she'd gotten, how fragile, how close they'd come. The cabin's heat hit like a physical thing. Elizabeth sobbed once from relief or pain, or both. Samuel made a sound low in his throat. Nathaniel stood rigid, suspicious, watching the stranger. The man pulled a canvas sheet from a peg on the wall, began stringing it across the middle of the room with practiced efficiency. Not for the first time, Kate thought. He'd done this before. Recently. "Boys by the fire," he said. "You and your daughter take the bed. I'll sleep in the barn." "No," Kate said. He paused, looked at her. "I won't take charity, or whatever this is." His face was hard to read under the shadow of his hat. Not young, but not old. Weathered, scarred. A thin white line ran along his jaw, old knife wound maybe. His eyes were dark brown, careful, guarded. "Then call it a trade," he said finally. "You cook. I'll pretend it's charity so my pride don't suffer." "I don't—" "There's stew in the pot, beans in the barrel, cornmeal in the tin. Feed them." He nodded at the children. "I'll tend your horse." He walked out before she could respond. Through the window, Kate watched him lead their exhausted mare toward the barn. He moved slowly, slightly uneven gait, confirming the limp, speaking to the animal in tones too low to hear. Gentle, patient. Then he stopped. At the graves. He stood there, hat in his hand, snow gathering on his shoulders. Just stood. Didn't pray. Didn't move. Didn't do anything except exist in that space between the living and the dead. Kate's throat tightened. She knew that stance. She'd stood that way beside Thomas's grave, beside the raw earth that had swallowed her husband and 20 other men when the shaft collapsed. She'd stood there trying to understand how life could change in the space between one breath and the next. The stranger looked like a man who'd forgotten how to come inside. "Mama." Elizabeth tugged her sleeve. "I'm hungry." Kate turned from the window. The cabin was clean, sparse, everything in its place. A man's space neat in the way of someone who had too much time and too much silence to fill. She found the pot. The stew was simple venison, potatoes, onions, still warm. He'd been cooking for himself before he'd seen them on the trail, before he'd decided to save them. She ladled it into bowls with shaking hands. The children ate like wolves, even Samuel, especially Samuel. He finished one bowl, started a second, and Kate saw tears running down his face that had nothing to do with grief, and everything to do with the simple animal relief of being warm and fed and safe. Nathaniel ate more slowly, watching the door. Protective. Worried. "What's his name?" he whispered. "I don't know." "Who's buried outside?" Kate glanced at the window. The graves were dark shapes in the snow. "I don't know that either." "Should we trust him?" She wanted to say yes, wanted to promise safety, but she'd made promises before that Thomas would come home, that they'd have enough money, that everything would be fine, and all of them had turned to ash. "I don't know," she said again. Elizabeth had fallen asleep sitting up, spoon still in her hand. Kate carried her to the bed, tucked her under quilts that smelled like cedar and wood smoke, and something else. Something clean and masculine and lonely. Samuel climbed in beside his sister without being asked. Nathaniel hesitated. "Go on," Kate said. "I'll stay up." "Ma, you need sleep too." "I will. Later." He wanted to argue. She could see it. But he was 12 and exhausted and still half-child despite his efforts. He crawled under the quilts. Kate sat in the chair by the fire, the rifle across her lap, and waited. An hour passed. 2. The wind howled. The fire crackled. The children's breathing deepened into sleep. The door opened. Kate lifted the rifle. The stranger froze, raised his hands slowly, carefully. Snow dusted his shoulders and hat. His face was red from cold. "Just me," he said quietly. "I know. You planning to shoot me?" "Haven't decided yet." Something that might have been a smile touched his mouth. Might have been. Hard to tell in the firelight. "Fair enough." He closed the door, moved to the woodpile, added logs to the fire. His movements were slow, deliberate, giving her time to decide, to choose. Kate lowered the rifle. Not much. Just enough. He straightened, pulled off his gloves. His hands were scarred, calloused, the hands of a man who worked hard and didn't complain. He looked at the canvas divider, at the children sleeping behind it. "They'll be warm tonight," he said. "Thank you." He nodded. Started toward the door. "Wait," Kate said. He turned. "What's your name?" Long pause. Like he'd almost forgotten. Like the answer didn't matter anymore. "James," he said finally. "James Holloway." "Kate Morrison." "I know. Heard them say it in town. When they turned you out." Her face burned. "You were there." "No, ma'am. But I know how Deadwood works. News travels." "And you came after us anyway." He looked at her. Really looked. His eyes were tired, ancient, holding more grief than any man his age should carry. "I knew that trail," he said. "Knew where it led. Couldn't let you go up there alone." "Why not?" "Because 3 years ago someone should have stopped me." He turned before she could ask what he meant, before she could push. The door opened, closed. He was gone. Kate stood, moved to the window. James Holloway walked through the snow to the barn. Slow, limping. Carrying whatever weight bent his shoulders and put that look in his eyes. She looked at the graves again. 2 crosses. 2 names she couldn't read in the darkness. 2 reasons why a man might sleep in the barn instead of his own bed. 2 ghosts that wouldn't let him come home. Kate touched the window glass. Cold, unforgiving, real. "Thank you," she whispered. The wind was the only answer. Morning came with silence. Kate woke to find Elizabeth still curled against her, Nathaniel and Samuel asleep on the floor by the fire. The cabin was warm. Someone had fed the stove during the night. She sat up. Through the window, James was splitting wood behind the barn. Methodical. Steady. Each swing precise despite the limp that made him shift his weight oddly. Kate stood, moved to the door. The cold hit her face like a slap. "Mr. Holloway." He looked up. Set down the axe. "Ma'am? You didn't have to do this. Wood don't split itself. I meant all of it. taking us in, feeding us, sleeping in the barn when it's 10 degrees. He picked up the axe again. Barn's fine. It's not fine, it's freezing. I've slept in worse. Kate crossed her arms. I won't be in your debt. Didn't ask you to be. Then what do you want? The axe came down. Wood split clean. He reached for another log before answering. Want you and them kids to be warm. Want you to eat. Want you to not freeze to death on that trail. He looked at her. That acceptable. Kate opened her mouth, closed it. Behind her she heard Elizabeth crying softly. Nathaniel's voice soothing. Samuel's silence. For how long? She asked quietly. Long as it takes. Takes for what? James drove the axe into the chopping block, left it there. For you to figure out what comes next. He walked past her into the barn. Kate stood in the snow, breath steaming, understanding nothing except that this man had saved them and wanted nothing, and that made him either a saint or a liar. She'd learned not to believe in saints. Inside, the children were awake. Elizabeth sat by the fire, drawing in the ashes with a stick. Nathaniel was examining the cabin with the careful attention of someone cataloging escape routes. Samuel stared at the wall. Is he going to hurt us? Nathaniel asked. No. How do you know? Kate didn't, but she said, because he would have already. The door opened. James came in carrying firewood, dropped it by the stove without looking at anyone. Kate watched him move. Every gesture economical. No wasted motion. A soldier's habits, maybe. Or a man who'd lived alone too long. There's coffee, he said. Eggs if you want them. Chickens out back still laying. Thank you. He nodded, started toward the door again. Mr. Holloway, Kate said. Those graves outside, who? Nobody. His voice went flat. Just people who used to be here. He left. Nathaniel looked at Kate. That's his wife and kid, isn't it? I don't know. I heard Mrs. Pritchard talking once about a man named Holloway who lost his family to diphtheria 3 years back. Wouldn't leave his land after. Wouldn't come to town. Just stayed out here alone. Kate's chest tightened. She looked at the canvas divider at the bed she'd slept in, at the quilts that still smelled like cedar and grief. We need to leave, she said. What, why? Because he's letting us sleep in his dead wife's bed, Nathaniel. Because every minute we're here is torture for him. But where will we go? Kate had no answer. Deadwood wouldn't take them. The trail north was suicide. And the money was gone. All of it. Every cent Thomas had left, every dollar she'd saved, every coin she'd earned washing other people's clothes in Rapid City. Elizabeth tugged her sleeve, held up the stick. She'd drawn a house in the ashes, a man, a woman, 3 children, all holding hands. Kate's throat closed. Baby, we can't stay here. Elizabeth's face crumpled. She threw the stick into the fire and ran to the bed, buried her face in the quilts. Nathaniel stood. Ma, I'm going to find work. In town. They need help at the livery, I heard. You're 12. I'm strong. I can work. No. Then what? His voice cracked. We can't live on charity. You said so yourself. We can't stay here. We can't go back. What are we supposed to do? Kate looked at her son. At his thin shoulders and clenched fists and eyes that burned with the same helpless rage she felt every waking moment. I don't know, she whispered. The door opened. James stood there holding a stack of clothes. Men's shirts, pants, a coat. For the boy, he said. If he's going to work, he needs warmer gear. Nathaniel stared. You heard? Walls are thin. I can't take your clothes. They're not mine. They were... James stopped. Set the clothes on the table. They don't fit me anyway. He left again. Kate picked up the shirt. Small, child-sized. She understood then. These had belonged to James's son, the boy buried outside, the ghost he couldn't escape. Nathaniel reached for them. Ma, I have to try. Not yet. When I figure out how to keep us together. She spent the morning cleaning. Not because James's cabin needed it, but because sitting still meant thinking and thinking meant breaking. She scrubbed the floor, mended tears in the canvas divider, reorganized the pantry. Elizabeth helped, silently moving like a shadow. Samuel sat by the fire and didn't move. Nathaniel disappeared outside. Kate watched through the window as he approached James in the woodpile. Saw her son's mouth moving. Saw James nod once. Saw Nathaniel pick up an axe. He swung. Missed. The axe buried itself in the ground. James pulled it free. Showed him something. Stance, maybe. Weight distribution. Nathaniel tried again. Better. Still clumsy, but better. Kate's vision blurred. By noon, Nathaniel had split half a cord. His hands were blistered. His face was red. But he was smiling. Actually smiling. James came inside carrying a rabbit, dead, already cleaned. "Caught it this morning," he said. "Figure you can make stew." Kate took it. Their fingers brushed. His hands were cold, rougher than bark. "Mr. Holloway." James. "James, we can't keep taking from you." "You're cooking. That's payment enough." "It's not." He looked at her, really looked, and Kate saw something in his eyes that made her breath catch. Not attraction, not yet, but recognition, the kind that happened when one broken thing saw another. "My wife used to say the same thing," James said quietly. "About accepting help. Pride was her favorite sin." His mouth twisted. "Mine too." What changed her mind? Dying. He turned away. "Turns out you can't be proud when you're dead." Kate stood frozen. The rabbit hung from her hand, blood dripping onto the clean floor. James grabbed his coat. "I'll be in the barn. Come get me if you need anything." He left. Elizabeth appeared beside Kate, touched the rabbit, made a soft sound that might have been sadness or hunger or both. "It's okay, baby," Kate whispered. "We're going to eat tonight." But she didn't feel okay. She felt like she was drowning in a stranger's kindness, and every breath pulled her deeper. That evening they ate together, all five of them. James sat at the head of the table, silent, eating with mechanical efficiency. The children watched him like he was a puzzle they needed to solve. Finally, Samuel spoke. His voice was rust and dust, and 3 weeks of silence breaking all at once. "What happened to your leg?" Kate's fork clattered. "Samuel. War." James said. Samuel's eyes widened. "Which one?" "The one that mattered." "Did you kill people?" "Samuel." Kate's face burned. "That's enough." But James held up a hand. "It's a fair question." He looked at the boy. "Yes, I killed people because they were trying to kill me, and my friends, and a whole lot of other folks who didn't deserve it." "Was it scary?" "Every day." "Do you dream about it?" James set down his fork. "Every night." Samuel nodded slowly. "I dream about the mine, about the rocks falling, about Papa's face when—" His voice broke. Kate reached for him. "Baby, you don't have to." "He looks surprised," Samuel whispered, like he didn't understand what was happening. "And I wanted to help, but I couldn't move, and then the dust came and I couldn't see, and when it cleared he was just gone." Tears ran down his face, the first tears Kate had seen since Thomas died. James stood, moved around the table, crouched beside Samuel's chair, stiff from the bad leg, and looked the boy in the eye. "Listen to me," James said. "What happened wasn't your fault. You understand not one bit of it. I should have helped. You were 9 years old. Rocks don't care how brave you are. But Papa, your Papa wouldn't want you carrying this. I guarantee it." James's voice was rough. "I know because I carry the same weight, and it's killing me. And I don't want that for you." Samuel sobbed. Great heaving sobs that shook his whole body. James pulled him close, held him while he cried, and Kate saw James's face twist with something that looked like pain and relief mixed together. Nathaniel wiped his eyes. Elizabeth climbed into Kate's lap. When Samuel finally quieted, James released him, stood slowly favoring the leg. "I'm sorry," Samuel whispered. "For what?" "Making you sad." James's jaw worked. "You didn't make me sad, son. You reminded me I'm still alive. That's different." He walked outside. Kate heard his uneven footsteps on the porch, then silence. She tucked the children into bed. All three of them together holding each other like survivors of a shipwreck, which Kate supposed they were. Then she went outside. James sat on the porch step staring at the graves. Snow had stopped. The sky was clear stars so bright they hurt. Kate sat beside him. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For talking to Samuel. For being honest with him." James said nothing. "Your son," Kate said carefully. "What was his name?" Long silence. Then, "William. We called him Will." "And your wife?" "Mary." Kate looked at the graves. Diphtheria. December of '81. The fever came fast. Will got sick first. Mary was nursing him. Then she got it too. His voice was flat dead. "I rode to Deadwood for the doctor. Blizzard hit. Took me 2 days to get back. By the time I did..." He stopped. Kate waited. "Will was already gone," James said. "Mary was barely conscious. She held on for 6 more hours. Long enough to tell me it wasn't my fault. Long enough to make me promise I'd keep living." His hands clenched. "I've been trying to keep that promise ever since, failing at it mostly. That's why you sleep in the barn. Can't sleep in there. Can still smell her. Can still hear Will laughing." He looked at Kate. "You think I'm crazy?" "No. I think you're grieving." "Been 3 years. Grief doesn't have a schedule." James laughed, bitter. "You sound like the Reverend." "I sound like a widow. We know things other people don't." He studied her face. "How long for you?" 4 months. Thomas died in July. Mine collapse outside Rapid City. 23 men went down. Nobody came up. Jesus. I begged him not to go that day. I had a feeling. You know how sometimes you just know? Kate's voice shook. "But he said we needed the money. Said he'd be careful. Said he'd see me at supper." She wiped her eyes. "I'm still waiting." James reached over, took her hand. His palm was warm, calloused, solid. They sat like that. 2 people who'd lost everything. 2 people who'd forgotten how to be whole. 2 people who understood that grief was a country with no borders and no end. Above them, the stars wheeled. The wind whispered. The graves stood silent. Then James said, "You can stay." Kate looked at him. "What?" "You and the children. You can stay here, long as you need." "James, we can't." "I got room, I got food, I got..." He gestured vaguely. Nothing else to do with any of it. "People will talk. Let them. They'll say terrible things, about both of us. They already do. About me anyway." He squeezed her hand. "Kate, I've been dead for 3 years, walking around breathing but dead. And today, for the first time since Mary died, I felt something other than guilt." "What?" "Useful." Kate's chest ached. "I can't let you do this out of guilt. I'm not. I'm doing it because that boy asked me about the war and I answered. Because your daughter drew a picture in the ashes and it made me remember what hope looks like. Because you're here and you need help and I can give it." He met her eyes. "Let me give it." "What about the town Harrison Blackwell won't let this stand?" "Blackwell can go to hell. He has power. He can make trouble. Then we'll deal with trouble." James stood, pulled her up with him. Kate, I'm not afraid of men like Blackwell anymore. I'm afraid of living another 3 years like the last 3. Alone. Empty. Talking to graves that don't answer. Kate looked at his face. Saw determination. Saw loneliness. Saw the same desperate hope she felt every time she looked at her children. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay. We'll stay, for now, until I find work, until we can manage on our own." James nodded. Fair enough. But they both knew it was a lie. That "for now" would become weeks, then months. That managing on their own wasn't possible in Deadwood, not for a widow with 3 children and no resources. That they'd just agreed to something bigger than temporary shelter. Something that would bring the whole town down on them like wolves. The first warning came 3 days later. Deputy Walsh rode up at dawn, looking uncomfortable and cold, and like he'd rather be anywhere else. James met him in the yard. Kate watched from the window, holding the rifle just in case. "Tucker," Walsh said. "It's Holloway." "Right, sorry." Walsh cleared his throat. "Got a message from the town council, from Harrison Blackwell specifically." "I'm listening." Walsh pulled out a folded paper. "Read it like a man reading his own death sentence." "Mr. Holloway, it has come to our attention that you are harboring a woman and her children in an unchaperoned situation. This reflects poorly on the moral standards of our community. We request that you encourage Mrs. Morrison to seek alternative arrangements. The county can provide assistance with relocation." James took the paper, read it, looked up. "You can tell Blackwell and his council that Mrs. Morrison is under my protection. She and her children will remain here as long as they choose." Walsh shifted in his saddle. "James, they're serious about this. Blackwell's got influence. He can make real trouble." "What kind of trouble?" "The legal kind. Questions about property, about intentions, about—" Walsh lowered his voice. "About whether you're exploiting her situation." Kate's blood went cold. James's face went hard. "Exploiting." "Their words, not mine." Walsh looked miserable. "James, I'm just the messenger. But if I were you, I'd think careful about this. Blackwell wants something, and he usually gets it. What does he want? Your land, water rights, railroads coming through next year. Your creek feeds half the valley." Walsh gathered his reins. "He'll use her to get to you. Mark my words." He rode away. James stood in the snowpaper, crumpled in his fist, rage coming off him like heat. Kate opened the door. "James." He turned. His eyes were dark, furious. "I heard," she said. "I'm not letting them do this. Maybe we should—" "No." He walked toward her. "Kate, listen to me. Blackwell is a vulture. He's been circling this land for 2 years. Offered me money, offered me deals, offered me everything except a fair price. I told him no every time. Now he thinks he can use you and your kids to force me out. Then I'll leave." "Where will you go?" She had no answer. James climbed the steps, stood close enough that she could see the scar on his jaw, the lines around his eyes, the absolute conviction in his face. "I'm not giving up this land," he said. "And I'm not giving up on you. You barely know me." "I know enough. I know you're brave. I know you're a good mother. I know you didn't deserve what happened to you." His voice dropped. "And I know if I let Blackwell run you off, I'll never forgive myself." Kate's eyes burned. "What do you suggest? We fight." "How?" James looked at the paper in his hand, at the words "unchaperoned situation" and "moral standards," and all the other lies people told themselves to justify cruelty. "We make it legal," he said. Kate's heart stopped. "What? Marriage. On paper only. If we're married, they can't touch you. Can't take your kids. Can't say a damn thing about propriety." "James, that's insane." "Why?" "Because you don't love me. Because I don't love you. Because marriage is supposed to mean something, Okay. It would mean something. It would mean your children are safe. It would mean Blackwell can't use county law to destroy you. He grabbed her hands. Kate, I'm not asking for a real marriage. I'm asking for a legal protection. You'd keep your room. I'd keep the barn. Nothing would change except the paper. Everything would change. Maybe. But maybe that's not the worst thing. Kate pulled away, walked to the edge of the porch, looked at the graves, at the mountains, at the sky that went on forever. I can't ask you to do this. You're not asking. I'm offering. Why? Because I'm tired of being dead. James's voice cracked. Because your boy asked me about the war, and I remembered I used to be a soldier. Because your girl drew a picture, and I remembered I used to have dreams. Because you're here, and you're alive, and you're fighting, and that's more than I've done in 3 years. Kate turned, looked at him, at this broken man offering her broken safety. What about when the children ask questions? She said. What about when people assume things? What about when we'll figure it out together? I don't believe in fairy tales anymore, James. Good. Neither do I. This isn't a fairy tale. It's survival. Kate closed her eyes, thought about Elizabeth's silence, about Samuel's nightmares, about Nathaniel's desperate need to be the man he wasn't old enough to be, thought about Harrison Blackwell and his legal papers and his patient predatory smile, thought about the alternative. Okay, she whispered. James exhaled. Okay. On 2 conditions. First, we tell the children the truth, that this is for protection, not love. Second, if you ever change your mind, you can walk away. No guilt, no obligations. Same goes for you. Kate opened her eyes. Then we have an agreement. James held out his hand. She took it. They shook like business partners, like allies, like 2 people making a bargain with the devil and hoping God wasn't watching. Inside, the children were eating breakfast. Nathaniel looked up. Ma, what's wrong? Kate glanced at James. He nodded. She sat down. We need to talk about something important. Nathaniel's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. Important how? Kate looked at James. He stood against the wall, arms crossed, face unreadable. Mr. Holloway and I are getting married, she said. The words landed like stones in water. Silence spread in rings. Samuel's eyes went wide. Elizabeth's mouth opened. Nathaniel stood so fast his chair fell backward. No. Nathaniel. No. You can't. Papa's only been gone 4 months. Kate's throat closed. I know. Then how can you... His voice cracked. How can you replace him already? I'm not replacing anyone. Yes, you are. You're marrying a stranger. James stepped forward. Son. I'm not your son. Nathaniel's face was red, tears streaming. Don't call me that. Don't ever call me that. He ran outside. The door slammed. Kate started to follow, but James caught her arm. Let me. He's my child. And he's a boy who just lost his father. He needs to hear this from a man. Kate wanted to argue, wanted to say Nathaniel was hers to comfort, hers to protect. But she saw the truth in James's eyes, saw that sometimes mothers couldn't reach the places sons went. Don't make promises you can't keep, she said. I won't. James limped outside. Through the window, Kate watched him approach Nathaniel, who stood by the woodpile, shoulders shaking. Samuel tugged her sleeve. Is Mr. James going to be our new papa? No, baby. Your papa was your papa. Nobody can replace him. Then why are you marrying? Kate crouched down, looked both children in the eye. Because the town wants to take you away from me. They say I can't take care of you alone. But if I'm married, they can't do that. Do you understand? Elizabeth's eyes filled with tears. She signed something, hands moving quick and desperate. I don't understand, sweetheart. I'm sorry. Samuel translated. She says, don't let them take us. She says she'll be good. She says, please. Kate pulled them both close. Nobody's taking you. That's why we're doing this. To keep us together. But you don't love him, Samuel said. No. Does he love you? Kate looked out the window. James was talking, hands moving, trying to explain something to a boy who didn't want to hear it. No, she said. But he's a good man. And good men are hard to find. Outside, Nathaniel was shouting. Kate couldn't hear the words, but she heard the rage, the grief, the betrayal. James just stood there, taking it, not defending himself, not arguing, just letting the boy burn. Finally, Nathaniel ran, into the trees, into the snow, gone. James turned back to the cabin. His face was gray. Kate met him at the door. What did you say? The truth. That his father was a better man than I'll ever be. That I'm not trying to replace him. That this is just paper to keep you safe. Did he believe you? No. James looked at the trees where Nathaniel had disappeared. But he will. Eventually. How do you know? Because I was 12 once, and I hated every man who tried to help my mother after my father died. Took me years to understand they weren't the enemy. He met her eyes. Grief makes children cruel. They don't mean it. Kate's chest ached. I'll go find him. No, let him sit with it. He'll come back when he's ready. What if he doesn't? He will. He's got nowhere else to go. The words were harsh but true. Kate hated that truth. Hated that her son's obedience came from desperation instead of choice. Samuel and Elizabeth were still at the table watching with frightened eyes. It's okay, Kate said. Everything's okay. But Elizabeth shook her head, pointed at the door, at the woods, at the absence Nathaniel had left behind. Samuel whispered, He thinks we're forgetting Papa. We're not. But we are, a little bit, every day. Kate's vision blurred. That's not forgetting baby. That's surviving. What's the difference? She had no answer. Nathaniel came back 2 hours later, frozen and silent. He didn't look at anyone, just went to the bed, crawled under the quilts, faced the wall. Kate sat beside him. I'm sorry. Don't. Nathaniel, I said don't. His voice was muffled. Just leave me alone. Kate left him alone. That night, James slept in the barn again. Kate lay awake in the bed that smelled like Mary Holloway's cedar sachets and listened to her children breathe. Tomorrow they'd ride to town. Tomorrow they'd stand in front of Reverend Townsend. Tomorrow they'd sign papers that would bind her to a man she barely knew. Tomorrow, her life would change forever. She closed her eyes and prayed to a God she wasn't sure believed in her anymore. The ride to Deadwood took 90 minutes. James drove the wagon. Kate sat beside him wearing her one good dress, black wool with buttons up the throat. The children huddled in back, silent. Nathaniel hadn't spoken since yesterday. Samuel kept glancing at his brother like he might explode. Elizabeth held Kate's hand so tight the bones ached. The town appeared in the valley, smoke rising, church bells ringing for Sunday service. We don't have to do this, James said quietly. Yes, we do. Kate, if we turn back now, Blackwell wins, and I won't let that man win. James's jaw tightened. He snapped the reins. The wagon rolled forward. Main Street was crowded. People in Sunday clothes heading to church, stopping to stare as James's wagon passed. Whispers followed like flies. That's her. The widow Morrison. Shameless. Kate kept her eyes forward, felt the weight of every gaze, felt judgment like hands pressing down. They stopped at the church. White paint, tall steeple cross, gleaming gold in winter sun. Reverend Michael Townsend stood at the door, young and nervous and decent. He'd only been in Deadwood 2 years, hadn't learned to be cruel yet. Mr. Holloway, he said. Mrs. Morrison, I received your message. Can you do it? James asked. Townsend glanced at the crowd gathering. at Mrs. Pritchard whispering to Mrs. Chen, at Harrison Blackwell standing outside his bank watching with cold interest. "I can," Townsend said, "but I need to ask, are you both entering this marriage freely?" "Yes," Kate said. "Mr. Holloway." James looked at her, really looked, and Kate saw the question in his eyes. The last chance to run. The final escape. She nodded. "Yes," James said. "Freely." "Then come inside." The church was empty, except for one person. Josiah Freeman sat in the back pew, Sunday hat in his hands. The black blacksmith who'd been James's friend since before Mary died. James stopped. "Joe." "Figured you'd need a witness." Josiah stood. "Figured you'd need somebody in your corner." "I don't want you getting trouble for this." "Too late. Been in trouble my whole life." Josiah smiled. "What's a little more?" They gathered at the altar. Kate James, 3 silent children, 1 loyal friend, 1 nervous reverend. Townsend opened his book. "Dearly beloved." The door banged open. Harrison Blackwell strode in, followed by Mrs. Pritchard and 3 men Kate didn't recognize. Town council members probably. Men with power and opinions. "Reverend Townsend," Blackwell said, "I must object to this proceeding." Townsend paled. "On what grounds?" "On grounds of impropriety. This woman has been living unchaperoned in Mr. Holloway's home for nearly a week. To legitimize this situation through marriage is to reward immoral behavior." Kate's face burned. "We've done nothing improper." "The appearance is what matters, Mrs. Morrison." Blackwell smiled. "And the appearance is quite damning." James stepped forward. "This is a church, Blackwell, not a courtroom. You got no authority here." "I have the authority granted by the town council, and we have concerns about this union." "What concerns?" Blackwell pulled papers from his coat. "Concerns about your intentions, Mr. Holloway. Concerns about whether you're exploiting Mrs. Morrison's desperate circumstances to gain access to her late husband's mining claims." Kate's stomach dropped. "What claims Thomas died in debt?" "Not according to territorial records. Your husband filed a silver claim 3 months before his death. Small, but valuable. It reverted to you upon his passing." "I never knew." "Exactly. But others did." Blackwell looked at James. "Including Mr. Holloway here, who just happens to live on land adjacent to your husband's claim. Quite convenient." James's face went dark. "That's a lie." "Is it, can you prove you didn't know about the claim?" "I don't give a damn about mining claims. I'm marrying her to protect her and her children." "From what?" "From whom?" Blackwell's voice rose. "The county offers respectable assistance for widows, placement for children in good Christian homes. But instead, you're rushing into marriage with a man you barely know. A man who's been half-mad with grief for 3 years. A man who sleeps in his barn because he can't stand his own memories." Kate saw James flinch, saw the words land like bullets. "That's enough," she said. "Is it, Mrs. Morrison? Because I'm trying to protect you. This man can't save you. He can barely save himself." "I said enough." Kate's voice cut through the church like a knife. "You don't care about protecting me, Mr. Blackwell. You care about that land, about water rights, about the railroad coming through and making you rich." Blackwell's smile vanished. "Careful, ma'am." "Or what?" "You'll take my children. You'll destroy my name." Kate laughed. Hard, bitter. "You already did that. You and this whole town. You locked your doors when I begged for shelter. You watched my babies freeze and didn't lift a finger. The only person who helped was James Holloway. So yes, I'm marrying him. And if that offends your delicate morality, you can go straight to hell." Gasps. Mrs. Pritchard clutched her chest. One of the council members crossed himself. Blackwell's face went red. "You're making a terrible mistake." "Then it's mine to make." "The county." The county has no claim on me or my children once I'm married. You know it, I know it. That's why you're here trying to stop this." Kate moved closer to James, took his hand. "Reverend Townsend, please continue." Townsend looked at Blackwell, at Kate, at James. His hands shook on the prayer book. "Reverend," Blackwell said softly, "the council will remember who sided with righteousness today, and who sided with scandal." Townsend went white. Kate's heart sank. He was going to cave, going to choose his position over principle. "Going to," Mr. Blackwell, Townsend said quietly. "Get out of my church." Silence. Blackwell stared. "Excuse me. This is God's house, not the town council's, not yours. And in God's house, we protect the vulnerable. We shelter the desperate. We do not threaten widows and orphans." Townsend's voice grew stronger. "Now get out before I have you removed." Blackwell's face twisted. "You'll regret this, Reverend." "Maybe. But I'll regret the alternative more." Blackwell turned, looked at Kate with pure hatred. "This isn't over." He left. Mrs. Pritchard and the council members followed. The door closed. Kate's knees went weak. James steadied her. Townsend wiped his forehead. "Lord help me. I just made an enemy of the most powerful man in Deadwood." "You did the right thing," Josiah said. "Tell that to my bishop when I lose this parish." But Townsend smiled, shaky but real. "Now, where were we? Ah, yes. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today." The ceremony was brief. No music, no flowers, no guests except Josiah and 3 shell-shocked children. Townsend read the words. Kate and James repeated them. Their voices flat, mechanical. A transaction. A legal arrangement. Nothing more. "Do you, James Holloway, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?" James looked at Kate. His eyes were sad, determined, honest. "I do." "Do you, Catherine Morrison, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Kate thought about Thomas, about the real wedding, the real vows, the real love, about everything she'd lost. Then she looked at her children, at Nathaniel's angry tears, at Samuel's fear, at Elizabeth's desperate hope. "I do," she said. "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife." Townsend closed his book. "God have mercy on us all." James pulled something from his pocket. A ring. Simple gold band. Mary's wedding ring. Kate's breath caught. "James, I can't." "She'd want you to have it, want you to be safe." He slid it onto her finger. Too big. It spun loose, but it stayed. "You may kiss the bride," Townsend said. They looked at each other. Strangers bound by law. 2 broken people pretending to be whole. James leaned in, kissed her cheek. Quick, chaste, over before it began. "Congratulations," Josiah said. But he didn't sound happy. He sounded worried. They signed the papers. Townsend witnessed. Josiah signed too. Legal, binding, done. Kate looked at the certificate. Her name next to James's. Mrs. Catherine Holloway. She felt nothing. No joy, no relief. Just exhaustion. Outside, the town was waiting. 50 people stood in the street, silent, staring, every face hard. James helped Kate onto the wagon. The children climbed in back. Nathaniel wouldn't look at anyone. Samuel held Elizabeth. Harrison Blackwell stood on the bank steps, watching, waiting. James picked up the reins, turned the wagon. Then Blackwell called out, "Enjoy it while you can, Holloway. This land will be mine, one way or another." James didn't answer, just drove. They were halfway home when Nathaniel spoke. "I hate you." Kate turned. "What?" "Not you, Ma, him." Nathaniel glared at James. "I hate you for making her do this, for taking advantage, for—" "Nathaniel Morrison, that's enough." "It's not enough. Papa's barely cold and you're already replacing him with a man who saved our lives, Kate said. With a man who gave us shelter when nobody else would. With a man who married me so the county couldn't steal you away. I don't care. Then you're a fool. Kate's voice was ice. You think I wanted this? You think I wanted to marry a stranger, to wear another woman's ring, to stand in that church and pretend my heart wasn't broken? Nathaniel fell silent. I did it for you, Kate said. For Samuel. For Elizabeth. Because keeping you safe matters more than my pride, more than my grief, more than anything. Tears ran down Nathaniel's face. I miss him, Ma. So do I, baby. Every single day. Then how can you? Because he'd want me to. He'd want me to do whatever it took to protect you, even if it hurt, even if it felt wrong, even if the whole world judged me for it. She turned away. Couldn't look at her son's pain anymore. Couldn't bear the weight of his disappointment. James drove in silence. His jaw was tight. His hands were white on the reins. They reached the cabin. The children went inside without speaking. Kate stood in the snow. The ring on her finger caught the light. Mary's ring. Mary's husband. Mary's life. I'm sorry, James said. For what? For all of it. For putting you through that. Don't apologize for saving us. I didn't save anyone. I just complicated everything. Kate looked at him. At this man who'd given up his privacy, his peace, his dead wife's ring, for strangers, for people who brought nothing but trouble. Why did you really do this? She asked. James was quiet for a long time. Then, you want the truth? Yes. Because the day you showed up on that trail half frozen and desperate, I saw Mary. Not her face, but her courage. The way she fought for William when he got sick. The way she never quit, even when there was no hope. He met Kate's eyes. I couldn't save her. But I could save you. And I needed to save you. To prove I wasn't completely useless. You're not useless. I've been useless for 3 years. Living half a life. Waiting to die. He touched the ring on her finger. Maybe now I'll remember how to live. Kate's throat closed. This wasn't the speech of a man entering a business arrangement. This was something else. Something dangerous. James, I know, this is temporary. Legal protection. Nothing more. He stepped back. I'll sleep in the barn. You keep the cabin. We'll figure out the rest as we go. He walked away. Kate stood alone in the snow, wearing a dead woman's ring, married to a ghost, trying to convince herself this was just survival. But survival didn't make her chest ache. Survival didn't make her want to chase after him. Survival didn't whisper that maybe possibly this could become something real. She pushed the thought away. Went inside. The children were in bed. Nathaniel faced the wall. Samuel and Elizabeth curled together whispering. Kate sat by the fire, stared at the ring, turned it around and around. Outside she heard James in the barn, moving things, settling in, making his lonely bed. She should feel relieved, should feel safe, should feel anything except this hollow ache. Instead, she felt like she'd just stepped off a cliff, and she was falling. And she didn't know if there was ground below or just endless dark. 3 days passed. James worked from dawn to dusk, building an addition onto the cabin. 2 more walls, a proper room for the boys. He didn't ask permission, just started building. Nathaniel refused to help at first, but on the second day he appeared with a hammer. Show me, he said. James showed him. How to measure, how to cut, how to notch logs so they locked together tight. They worked in silence, father and son. Except they weren't. Would never be. But something grew between them anyway. Something small, tentative, built from sawdust and sweat. Kate watched from the window. Saw Nathaniel smile once. Just once. When he drove a nail straight and true. Samuel spent his days with Kate learning to cook, to clean, to manage a household. He talked now. Not much, but enough. Elizabeth followed James everywhere. Silent shadow, watching with enormous eyes. On the third evening, she climbed into James's lap while he sat carving by the fire. He froze, looked at Kate. She nodded. James relaxed. Let the child stay. Showed her the wooden horse he was making. Elizabeth touched it, smiled. Then she signed something. "What's she saying?" James asked. Samuel translated. "She says you're sad like her. She says sad people should stick together." James's face crumpled. He held Elizabeth close, and Kate saw tears on his cheeks. That night after the children slept, Kate found James on the porch. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For being kind to them. For not giving up when Nathaniel pushed you away. For letting Elizabeth sit with you. She reminds me of Will. The way she moves, the way she watches everything." Kate sat beside him. "Does it hurt being around children again?" "Yes, but it's a good hurt. The kind that means I'm still alive." They sat in silence. Above them, stars wheeled. The wind whispered through pines. Kate felt the space between them. 6 inches of night air. 6 inches that felt like miles. "James," she said, "if this becomes too much, if you need us to leave—" "I don't. But if you do—" "Kate." He turned to her. "I'm not asking you to leave. I'm asking you to stay. For as long as you want. Forever if that's what you choose. This was supposed to be temporary." "I know, but temporary is starting to feel permanent, and I'm not sure I mind." Kate's heart stuttered. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm tired of sleeping in the barn. I'm saying those children need a father even if it's not their real one. I'm saying you and I are both broken, and maybe broken things fit together better than whole ones." "James, I'm not asking for love. I know you don't love me. Hell, I'm not sure I'm capable of love anymore. But maybe we could build something else, something real. Partnership, family, home." Kate couldn't breathe. This was too much, too fast, A scream shattered the night. They ran inside. Samuel was thrashing in bed, eyes closed, trapped in nightmare. "Papa! Papa! The rocks! Papa!" Kate grabbed him. "Baby, wake up. You're safe." But he didn't wake, just screamed and screamed. James knelt beside them. "Samuel, listen to my voice. You're not in the mine. You're home. You're safe." Samuel's eyes opened, wild, terrified. Then they focused. "Mr. James, I'm here. I saw him die again. I always see him die." James pulled the boy close. "I know. I see my son die every night too." Samuel sobbed. "Does it ever stop?" "No, but it gets quieter, and you learn to live around it." "I don't want to live around it. I want it gone." "I know, son, I know." Nathaniel and Elizabeth were awake now, watching. James looked at Kate. She saw the question, the permission he needed. She nodded. "Come here," James said to all 3 children. "All of you." They came. Slowly, carefully, gathered around him like planets around the sun. "Your papa was a good man," James said. "Better than me, probably. And he loved you more than anything, and losing him hurts worse than anything you'll ever feel." The children nodded. "But he wouldn't want you to stop living. He'd want you to grow up strong, to be happy, to remember him, but not drown in remembering." James's voice cracked. "My son died 3 years ago, and I've been drowning ever since, until your ma showed up and reminded me what living looked like." "We remind you," Elizabeth signed. Samuel translated. "Yes," James said. "Every single day." Nathaniel wiped his eyes. "But you're not our papa." "No, I'm not, and I never will be. Your papa was Thomas Morrison, and nobody can replace him." "Then what are you?" James looked at Kate. She looked back, and something passed between them. Something unnamed, something real. "I'm the man who's here," James said. "I'm the man who'll keep you safe, who'll teach you what I know, who'll stand with you against whatever comes." He met Nathaniel's eyes. "If you'll let me." Nathaniel's face twisted. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then he whispered, "Okay." Just that. One word. But it was enough. The children went back to bed. Kate tucked them in, kissed their heads, whispered love. When she came out, James was standing by the door. "I meant what I said," he told her. "About building something real." Kate touched the ring on her finger. "I'm scared." "So am I." "What if we fail? Then we fail together. That's better than succeeding alone." He walked out. Back to the barn. Back to his exile. But Kate stood in the doorway and watched him go. And for the first time since Thomas died, she felt something other than grief. She felt hope. And hope, she was learning, was the most terrifying thing of all. The next morning, Kate woke to voices outside. Male voices. Angry. She grabbed the rifle, ran to the window. 4 men on horseback surrounded James in the yard. Harrison Blackwell sat at the center, flanked by 2 ranch hands she didn't recognize, and Deputy Walsh, who looked sick. "James Holloway," Blackwell called out. "We need to talk." James stood in the snow axe in hand. "Talk from there." "I'm afraid this requires a closer conversation." Blackwell dismounted. The ranch hands followed. Kate opened the door. "What do you want?" Blackwell smiled. "Mrs. Holloway, congratulations on your recent nuptials. I trust the Reverend gave you a lovely ceremony." "Get off our property." "Your property? Interesting." Blackwell pulled papers from his coat. "Because according to territorial records, this land has some complications." James's grip tightened on the axe. "What complications?" "Water rights disputes. Survey questions. Claims filed by the railroad that predate your homestead filing by 6 months." Blackwell unfolded the documents. "I'm here on behalf of the Dakota Central Railroad to inform you that this property falls within their easement corridor." Kate's blood went cold. "That's a lie. Is it Deputy Walsh? Please confirm these documents are legitimate." Walsh pulled out matching papers, hands shaking. "They're filed proper with the territorial office. Dated November of '82. "Before I filed my claim," James said quietly. "Exactly. Which means legally you're squatting on railroad property. They've been generous enough to allow you to remain until spring. But come April, you'll need to vacate. This is my land. I built this cabin. I buried my—" James stopped. "I'm not leaving." "Then you'll be forcibly removed, and your new wife and her children will be homeless, again." Blackwell's smile widened. "Unless, of course, we reach an arrangement." "What arrangement?" "You sell me your water rights. All of them. I'll pay fair price. And I'll make sure the railroad finds a different route." James laughed, hard, bitter. "You fabricated those railroad documents just to force me to sell." "Prove it." "I will. I'll ride to the territorial office myself." "Feel free. It's only 200 miles, through winter conditions. Should take you, 3 weeks, maybe 4. Blackwell glanced at the cabin. "I'm sure your new family will be perfectly safe here alone while you're gone." The threat was clear. Kate stepped forward. "You can't do this." "I can do whatever the law allows, Mrs. Holloway. And the law is very clear about property rights, about water rights, about what happens to families who can't prove ownership." Behind Kate, the children appeared in the doorway. Nathaniel, Samuel, Elizabeth. All watching. Blackwell saw them. "Ah, the orphans. I trust they're adjusting well to their new circumstances." "They're not orphans," Kate said. "They have a mother. And now they have a father. A father who's about to lose everything." Blackwell turned to James. "You have until April 1st. Sell me the water rights or the railroad takes it all. Your choice." He mounted his horse. The ranch hands followed. Deputy Walsh lingered. "James," Walsh said quietly, "those documents are real. I verified them myself. I'm sorry." "Did you verify Blackwell didn't pay someone to backdate them?" Walsh's face went gray. He rode away without answering. James stood in the snow papers in hand rage coming off him like heat. Kate touched his arm. "What do we do? I don't know. Can we fight this? Not without proof, not without money for lawyers, not without—" He stopped, crumpled the papers. "I should have seen this coming." "How could you?" "Because it's what I would do if I wanted to destroy someone. Find their weakness, exploit it, force them into impossible choices." James looked at her. "I'm sorry, Kate. I thought marrying me would protect you. All I did was paint a bigger target on your back." "This isn't your fault." "Yes, it is. Blackwell wants my land. Now he'll use you and those children to get it." Nathaniel stepped forward. "Then we fight him." "You're 12. I'm old enough to know when someone's trying to hurt my family." Nathaniel's voice was steel. "And I'm old enough to stand up." James stared at the boy. Something passed between them. Understanding, respect. "What do you suggest?" James asked. "We go to town. We tell everyone what Blackwell's doing. We make noise. Nobody in Deadwood will listen to us. Then we make them listen." Kate felt pride swell in her chest. "He's right. We can't just surrender." "Kate, if we fight this, Blackwell will come at us with everything. He'll destroy our reputation, question the marriage, try to take the children." "Let him try." James looked at her. At this woman who'd survived a mine collapse, a frozen trail, a town's rejection. Who stood in the snow wearing a dead woman's ring and dared the world to break her. "All right," he said. "We fight." They rode into Deadwood 3 hours later, all 5 of them. James drove Kate beside him, children in back. Main Street was busy. People stopped to stare. Whispers followed like wolves. "That's the Holloway woman. Married barely a week and already causing trouble. Heard Blackwell's going to take their land. Good. They don't deserve it." Kate kept her head high, refused to flinch. They stopped at the church. Reverend Townsend was sweeping the steps. "Mrs. Holloway," he said. "Mr. Holloway, what brings you to town?" "We need your help," Kate said. Townsend glanced at the gathering crowd. "Come inside." They filed into the church. Quiet. Empty. Safe. Kate told him everything. The documents. The threats. Blackwell's ultimatum. Townsend listened, face growing darker. "That man is a plague on this town." "Can you help us?" James asked. "How?" "You have influence. People respect you. If you speak against Blackwell, I'll lose my parish. The bishop already received complaints about our wedding. One more incident, and I'll be removed." Kate's heart sank. "So you won't help?" Townsend was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I didn't say that. Reverend, I said I'd lose my parish. I didn't say I wouldn't do it." He stood. "Sometimes righteousness costs everything. I'm starting to think that's the point." He walked to the pulpit, rang the church bell. The sound echoed through Deadwood, calling, summoning. People began arriving, curious, suspicious. Mrs. Pritchard came, Mrs. Chen, Josiah Freeman. Shopkeepers and ranchers and miners. 20 people, 30, 40. Harrison Blackwell arrived last, face dark with fury. "Reverend Townsend," he called out, "this is highly irregular." So is fabricating railroad documents to steal a man's land. Gasps, murmurs. Blackwell's eyes went cold. "I'd be very careful about making accusations you can't prove." "Then let's examine the proof." Townsend held up the papers James had given him. These documents claimed the Dakota Central Railroad filed claims on James Holloway's property in November of 1882, but the Dakota Central Railroad didn't exist until January of 1883. Silence. Heavy. Damning. Blackwell's face went red. That's irrelevant. The railroad restructured under a different name, different charter, different legal entity. Townsend's voice rang through the church. These documents are forgeries, and you know it. You have no proof. I have common sense. I have dates. I have public records. Townsend looked at the congregation. How many more families will we let this man destroy before we say enough? Mrs. Pritchard stood. Reverend Mr. Blackwell has done tremendous good for this town. He built the school. He funded the hospital. We can't hold him accountable? Josiah Freeman rose. I've been in this town 15 years. Watched Blackwell take land from 3 families. Watched him ruin the Johnsons when they couldn't pay his loans. Watched him turn people against each other so he could profit from the chaos. When do we stop pretending he's a benefactor and admit he's a vulture? More people stood. The school teacher, 3 ranch families, the livery owner. Not everyone, but enough. Blackwell's face twisted. You're all fools. These people are liars. She's a fortune hunter. He's a broken drunk who couldn't even save his own family. And you're taking their word over mine. James moved before Kate could stop him. Crossed the church in 3 strides, grabbed Blackwell by the collar, slammed him against the wall. Say that again, James growled. Say one more word about my wife or my family. James? Kate ran forward. Let him go. He called you a fortune hunter. I don't care what he calls me. Let him go before you give him ammunition. James's hands shook. For a long moment, Kate thought he wouldn't listen, thought rage would swallow reason. Then he released Blackwell, stepped back. Blackwell straightened his coat, eyes blazing. You just assaulted me in front of 40 witnesses. You just slandered my wife. I call it even. The law won't see it that way. Deputy Walsh stepped forward. The law sees a lot of things, Mr. Blackwell, including forged documents, including fraud, including threats against families with children. Blackwell stared. You're taking their side. I'm taking the side of what's right, for once. Walsh pulled out handcuffs. You want to press charges for assault, fine, but I'll be investigating those railroad documents real careful, and if they're fake, you'll be facing charges of your own. The church went silent. Blackwell looked around, at the faces watching, at the people he'd controlled for years, at his power slipping away like water through fingers. This isn't over, he said quietly. Yes, it is, Josiah said. Pack your things, leave Deadwood, and don't come back. You can't force me. No, but we can make your life so miserable you'll want to leave. Josiah stepped forward. I'm done bending to you. We all are. One by one, people nodded. Agreement, unity, defiance. Blackwell's face went white. He turned, walked out of the church, into the cold afternoon. Kate watched him go. Felt no triumph, only exhaustion. Townsend touched her shoulder. You did it. Did what? Stood up, fought back, won. It doesn't feel like winning. It rarely does. But it's still victory. The congregation dispersed. Some stopped to congratulate Kate and James. Others left quickly uncomfortable with choosing sides. Mrs. Pritchard lingered by the door. Mrs. Holloway, she said. Kate tensed. Mrs. Pritchard, I owe you an apology for turning you away, for judging you, for... Her voice broke. My husband left me for a widow once, 10 years ago, and I've hated every widow since. But you didn't deserve that hatred. Neither did your children. Kate's throat tightened. Thank you. I have rooms available, if you ever need them, for friends, family, anyone you send my way. She left before Kate could respond. James appeared beside her. Ready to go home. Home. The word settled warm in Kate's chest. Yes, she said. They gathered the children, walked to the wagon. The sun was setting, painting snow gold and pink. Nathaniel climbed up front beside James without being asked. Samuel and Elizabeth sat in back holding hands. They were halfway to the cabin when Nathaniel said, "Mr. James." "Yes. Can I call you Pa?" James's hands froze on the reins. His face went pale. "You don't have to," Nathaniel said quickly. "I just thought since we're family now, maybe—" "Yes." James's voice was rough. "Yes, you can call me Pa." Nathaniel smiled. "Okay. Pa." James wiped his eyes. Kate reached over, squeezed his hand. In the back, Samuel whispered to Elizabeth, "Does this mean we have a papa again?" Elizabeth signed something. Samuel laughed. "What did she say?" Kate asked. "She says we have 2 papas now, one in heaven, one here, and that makes us lucky." Kate's vision blurred. She turned away so the children wouldn't see her cry. They reached the cabin as full dark fell. James built up the fire while Kate started supper. The children played on the floor, louder than usual, lighter. Samuel was teaching Elizabeth a card game. Nathaniel was reading aloud from the Bible, stumbling over words, trying. James sat at the table carving. The same wooden horse he'd been working on for weeks. Almost finished now. Kate moved around the cabin, cooking, cleaning, feeling the weight of the day lift, degree by degree. This was what home felt like. Not perfection. Not happiness. Just presence. Just people choosing to stay. After the children slept, Kate found James on the porch again. "Their spot now. You okay?" she asked. "Nathaniel called me Pa." "I heard. I never thought—" His voice cracked. "I never thought I'd hear that word again." Kate sat beside him, closer than before. "Does it feel like betraying William?" "Yes and no. And I don't know." James looked at the graves. "I keep thinking Mary would be angry, that I'm replacing them, but then I think maybe she'd be glad I'm not alone anymore. I think she'd be glad you're living again. You didn't know her." "No, but I know what it's like to love someone, to want them to be happy, even after you're gone." Kate touched his hand. "Thomas would want me to build a new life, to give the children a father, to—" She stopped. The words stuck. James turned to her. "To what?" "To love again. If I could. If I found someone worth loving." The air between them changed. Charged. Dangerous. "Kate, I'm not saying I do. Love you. I don't. Not yet. Maybe not ever." Her words tumbled out. "But I'm saying I could. Maybe. If we both wanted to try. If this wasn't just legal protection. If we made it real." James's face was unreadable. "You'd want that? I don't know. Would you? I don't know either. I'm terrified." "So am I. What if we hurt each other? We probably will. People do. What if I can't give you what you need?" Kate met his eyes. "What if you already are?" James's breath caught. He leaned closer. She didn't move. Their lips met, tentative, testing. Nothing like the chaste kiss at their wedding. This was real, searching, honest. Kate pulled back first. "James, I know, too fast. I'm sorry." "No, don't be sorry. Just—" She stood. "I need time. To think, to feel, to figure out if this is grief or loneliness or something real." "Take all the time you need." "What if I decide I can't do this?" "Then we stay married on paper. I'll still protect you, still help with the children. Nothing changes except we know where we stand." Kate nodded, turned to go inside. "Kate." She looked back. "I think I'm falling in love with you," James said quietly. "And it scares the hell out of me. But I needed you to know." Kate's heart stuttered. She wanted to say it back, wanted to run to him, wanted to let herself fall, but she'd rushed before. With Thomas. Married young in love, convinced nothing could touch them. Then life had touched them. Hard. Cruel. Final. Good night, James, she whispered. She went inside, closed the door, leaned against it, and tried to breathe. Her children slept peacefully. The fire crackled. The cabin was warm. And outside, a man who'd given her everything sat alone in the dark, waiting for an answer she didn't know how to give. 3 weeks passed. Winter deepened. The addition to the cabin was finished. 2 proper rooms now. Boys in one. Elizabeth in the other with Kate. James still slept in the barn. They didn't talk about the kiss. Didn't talk about feelings. Just worked. Side by side. Building routines. Building trust. Nathaniel called him Pa without hesitation now. Samuel followed James everywhere. Elizabeth made James laugh with her silent observations, signing stories only Samuel could translate. Kate watched it happen. Watched her children heal. Watched James become the father they needed. And she felt her walls cracking. Then Harrison Blackwell came back. It was early March. Kate was hanging laundry when she saw the riders. 6 men. Blackwell in front. James, she called. He came running from the barn, rifle in hand. The men stopped at the property line. Blackwell dismounted. Mr. Holloway, Mrs. Holloway, I thought we should talk. We got nothing to say to you, James said. Not even about the children. Kate's blood froze. What about my children? Blackwell pulled papers from his coat. I've filed a petition with the territorial court, questioning the validity of your marriage, suggesting it was entered into fraudulently for the purpose of evading county custody laws. That's a lie. Is it you married a man you barely knew, days after arriving in Deadwood, immediately after receiving notice of pending custody review? Blackwell smiled. The judge will review evidence next week. If he agrees the marriage was fraudulent, it will be annulled, and the children will revert to county custody. Kate couldn't breathe. You can't do this. I already did. You'll receive your summons tomorrow. Blackwell mounted his horse. Unless, of course, Mr. Holloway would like to reconsider my generous offer for his water rights. James raised the rifle. Get off my land. Our land. For now. Blackwell turned his horse. You have 1 week to decide. Your water rights, or your family. Choose wisely. They rode away. Kate's legs gave out. James caught her. He can't take them, she whispered. James, he can't take my babies. He won't. How do you know? Because I won't let him. James pulled her close. Kate, listen to me. We'll fight this. We'll prove the marriage is real. How it's not real. We don't love each other. We barely know each other. Any judge will see through it. James was quiet for a long moment. Then we make it real. Kate pulled back. What? We make it real. Stop sleeping in separate rooms. Stop pretending this is just legal protection. Stop lying to ourselves and everyone else. James. I meant what I said 3 weeks ago. I'm falling in love with you. Maybe I already have, and I think you feel something too. You're just too scared to admit it. Of course I'm scared. Everything I've ever loved has been taken from me. I know, I'm scared too. But Kate, we can keep running from this, keep hiding, keep pretending we're strangers who happen to share a roof. Or we can be brave. We can choose each other. Really choose. And damn the consequences. Tears streamed down Kate's face. What if we fail? Then we fail trying. That's better than not trying at all. Kate looked at this man, this broken, beautiful, impossible man who'd saved her life and given her hope and was offering her a future she didn't think she deserved. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Make it real. Make me believe this can work. Make me believe. James kissed her. Deep. Desperate. Real. And Kate kissed him back. Stopped thinking. Stopped fearing. Just felt. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, James said, "Move into the cabin. Tonight. Sleep in our bed. Be my wife. Truly. The children will be happy. They already love you. They already love me. This is just making it official." Kate nodded. "Okay. Yes. Yes." That night, for the first time in 3 years, James Holloway slept in his own bed, with a woman beside him who wasn't Mary, but who needed him just as much, with 3 children breathing softly in the next rooms, safe, protected, loved, with a future that was terrifying and uncertain and absolutely worth fighting for. Kate lay awake listening to James breathe, feeling his warmth, feeling his presence, and she let herself hope. Hope that love could happen twice, that families could be rebuilt, that broken people could become whole. Outside the wind howled, the snow fell, but inside they were warm, and tomorrow they'd face Harrison Blackwell, together, as a real family, no matter what it cost. Morning came too fast. Kate woke wrapped in James's arms, his chest against her back, his breath warm on her neck. For one perfect moment, she let herself believe this was normal, that she hadn't just upended her entire life again. Then she remembered Blackwell, the court summons. 1 week to prove their marriage was real. "You awake?" James murmured. "Yes." Having second thoughts. Kate turned to face him. His eyes were dark, honest, worried. "Third and fourth thoughts. But I'm still here." "That's all I need." He kissed her forehead. "We should tell the children." "Tell us what?" Nathaniel stood in the doorway, arms crossed. Behind him, Samuel and Elizabeth peered around with curious faces. Kate sat up, pulling the quilt to her chest. "Nathaniel, we talked about knocking." The door was open. "Ma, what's going on? Why is Pa in your bed?" James stood, reached for his shirt. "Because your ma and I decided to stop pretending. We're married. Time we acted like it." Samuel grinned. "Does this mean you're really our pa now? Not just on paper? If you'll have me." "Yes." Samuel launched himself at James, who caught him with a laugh. Elizabeth followed, wrapping around James's leg. But Nathaniel didn't move. His face was stone. "Nate!" Kate stood. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. It's fine. Whatever makes you happy." He turned to leave. "Nathaniel Morrison, don't you dare walk away from me." He stopped, shoulders tight. "What do you want me to say, Ma?" "That I'm thrilled you're sleeping with a man who's not my father. That I'm happy you moved on so fast." "Fast?" Kate's voice rose. "Your father has been dead for 8 months. I've cried myself to sleep every night. I've fought to keep you fed and safe and together. Don't you dare tell me I moved on too fast." "Then what is this love you barely know him?" "I know he saved our lives. I know he's kept us safe. I know he treats you better than most blood fathers treat their sons." Kate moved closer. "I know I'm tired of being alone, tired of being scared, tired of pretending I don't deserve happiness because your father is gone." Nathaniel's face crumpled. "I just don't want to forget him." James set down the younger children, walked over. "You won't forget him. He's your pa, always will be. I'm just the man who's here now, the man who loves your ma, the man who wants to be part of this family." He put a hand on Nathaniel's shoulder. "If you'll let me." Nathaniel wiped his eyes. "You really love her?" "Yes." "You're not just doing this to keep Blackwell from taking us?" "That's why we got married. This is why we're staying married." Nathaniel looked at Kate. "Do you love him?" Kate's breath caught. Did she? She'd barely had time to think, to feel, to, "Yes," she heard herself say. "I think I do." The words hung in the air. True, terrifying, real. James's face softened. He hadn't known either, hadn't been sure. Now they both knew. "Okay," Nathaniel whispered. "Okay." I can live with that." He hugged Kate. Then, after a moment, he hugged James too. Samuel whooped. Elizabeth signed something joyful, and for one brief moment, they were just a family. Imperfect. Cobbled together, but whole. Then Kate remembered. "We have to go to court next week. Blackwell's trying to prove our marriage is fraudulent." "How do we stop him?" Samuel asked. "We prove it's real. We show the judge we're a real family." "But how?" James looked at Kate. "We tell the truth, all of it. The good, the bad, the messy. We show them we chose each other, every day, despite everything." Kate nodded. "Then that's what we'll do." The summons came 2 days later. Official seal. Territorial Court. Judge William Crawford presiding. Monday, March 15th, 1884. Kate read it 3 times, hands shaking. "This is really happening." "We'll be ready," James said. They spent the weekend preparing. James taught Nathaniel and Samuel to testify if needed. Kate coached Elizabeth on being brave. They rehearsed answers. Practiced staying calm. Sunday evening, Reverend Townsend arrived unannounced. "I heard about the court date," he said. "I'm testifying on your behalf." Kate's throat tightened. "Reverend, you'll lose your parish." "I've already lost it. Bishop's removing me end of month. Apparently marrying you two was the final straw." He smiled. "Worth it, though. Now I can speak truth without consequences." "There are always consequences," James said. "Then I'll bear them gladly." That night, Kate couldn't sleep. She lay beside James, staring at the ceiling. "What if it's not enough?" she whispered. "What if the judge doesn't believe us? Then we run, take the children, head to Montana or Oregon or anywhere Blackwell can't reach. We'd lose everything. We'd have each other. That's not nothing." Kate rolled toward him. "When did you become an optimist?" "When you showed up half frozen on that trail and reminded me what living looked like." He kissed her. "Sleep. Tomorrow we fight." Monday morning arrived cold and clear. They dressed in their best clothes. Kate wore her black wool dress. James wore his one good suit saved from his wedding to Mary. The children wore their Sunday clothes. Nathaniel stood tall. Samuel held Elizabeth's hand. They looked like a family. They rode to Deadwood in silence. The town was already buzzing. 50 people gathered outside the courthouse. Some supportive. Most just curious. Harrison Blackwell waited on the steps, flanked by 2 lawyers in expensive suits. "Mrs. Holloway, Mr. Holloway. Children." He tipped his hat. "Ready for justice." James's jaw tightened. "Ready to watch you lose." "We'll see." Inside the courtroom was packed, every seat filled. People standing in back. Judge Crawford sat behind the bench, old and gray and unreadable. Kate's stomach churned. The bailiff called order. "Case of Blackwell versus Holloway. Petition to annul marriage on grounds of fraud." Blackwell's lead lawyer stood. Harold Grimsby, slick and smooth. "Your Honor will prove this marriage was entered into solely to evade county custody laws. That Mrs. Morrison manipulated Mr. Holloway into a fraudulent union. That these children should be removed to proper care." Kate's blood boiled, but James squeezed her hand. "Stay calm." Judge Crawford looked at them. "Mr. Holloway, Mrs. Holloway, how do you plead?" James stood. "Not guilty, Your Honor. Our marriage is real, legal, and none of Mr. Blackwell's damn business." Gasps. Crawford's eyebrow raised. "Watch your language, sir." "Apologies, Your Honor, but I stand by the sentiment." Crawford almost smiled. "Proceed, Mr. Grimsby." Grimsby called his first witness, Deputy Walsh. Walsh took the stand looking miserable. "State your name." "Thomas Walsh, Deputy Sheriff." "Deputy Walsh, Can you describe the circumstances under which Mr. Holloway and Mrs. Morrison met? She was on the trail north. He found her, brought her back to his cabin. How long after meeting did they marry? 6 days. 6 days. Grimsby turned to the jury, 12 men all staring. And in those 6 days did they court exchange letters, have proper chaperoned visits? No. So they went from strangers to spouses in less than a week. Does that seem like a genuine marriage to you? Objection, James said. He's not a lawyer. Sustained, Crawford said. Mr. Grimsby, stick to facts. Grimsby nodded. Deputy Walsh, did Mr. Holloway have any financial motivation to marry Mrs. Morrison? Walsh hesitated. There were mining claims. Kate's heart sank. What mining claims? Mrs. Morrison's late husband filed a silver claim before he died, small but valuable, adjacent to Holloway's property. So Mr. Holloway stood to gain financially from this marriage. Objection, James was on his feet. I didn't know about any mining claims. Still don't care. Mr. Holloway, sit down, or I'll hold you in contempt, Crawford warned. James sat. Grimsby smiled. No further questions. James stood to cross-examine. Deputy Walsh, did I ever ask you about mining claims? No. Did I ever express interest in Mrs. Morrison's finances? No. What did I say when you delivered the counsel's letter warning me about impropriety? Walsh met his eyes. You said she and her children were under your protection, that you'd stand with them no matter what. Did that sound like a man motivated by greed? No, it sounded like a man in love. Whispers rippled through the courtroom. Grimsby called Mrs. Pritchard next. She took the stand, hands trembling. State your name. Abigail Pritchard. Mrs. Pritchard, did you rent a room to Mrs. Morrison when she arrived in Deadwood? No. Why not? I don't rent to women without husbands. So she was desperate, homeless, vulnerable. Yes. Perfect circumstances for someone to exploit. No further questions. James stood. Mrs. Pritchard, have you changed your opinion of Mrs. Holloway? She looked at Kate. Yes. How so? I judged her unfairly. She's a good woman, a good mother. She didn't deserve my cruelty. Do you believe her marriage to me is fraudulent? No, I believe it's the bravest thing I've ever seen. Grimsby shot to his feet. Objection, speculation. Overruled, Crawford said. I'll allow it. The morning dragged on, witness after witness, some for Blackwell, some for James and Kate. The jury watched faces unreadable. At noon, Crawford called recess. Kate and James huddled with the children outside. How are we doing? Samuel asked. Hard to say, James said. Are they going to take us away? Elizabeth signed. Samuel translated. Kate knelt down. Not if I can help it, sweetheart. Reverend Townsend approached. They'll call me after lunch. I'll do my best. Thank you, Kate whispered. Blackwell walked past, smiling. Enjoying your last hours as a family. James moved toward him, but Kate grabbed his arm. Don't. That's what he wants. Blackwell laughed. She's smarter than you, Holloway. You should listen to her. He walked away. The afternoon session began. Grimsby called Blackwell himself. Mr. Blackwell, why did you bring this petition? Because I care about this community, about its moral standards, about protecting children from questionable situations. Do you believe this marriage is fraudulent? Absolutely. Mrs. Morrison is a manipulator. She saw a lonely widower and exploited his grief. It's despicable. Kate wanted to scream, wanted to stand up and call him a liar. But James held her hand. Stay calm. James cross-examined. Mr. Blackwell, how many times have you tried to buy my land? That's irrelevant. Answer the question. Blackwell's jaw tightened. 4 times. And each time I refused correct, yes. Did you threaten me after the last refusal? I don't recall. Let me refresh your memory. You said, and I quote, "This land will be mine, one way or another. Remember that." Blackwell's face darkened. That was a figure of speech. Was it, or was it a promise that you'd destroy anyone standing in your way? "Objection," Grimsby shouted. "Withdrawn," James said. "No further questions." Townsend testified next, told the truth, about the wedding, about Blackwell's threats, about watching Kate and James choose each other. "They're not perfect," Townsend said, "but they're real. They love each other. They love those children, and that's worth more than any legal technicality." Grimsby tried to discredit him. "You're being removed from your parish for performing this marriage, correct?" "Yes." "So you have a vested interest in defending it, to justify your poor judgment." Townsend smiled. "I have a vested interest in truth. And the truth is, Mr. Grimsby, you're working for a man who'd rather destroy a family than admit defeat. That's not justice. That's cruelty." The courtroom erupted. Crawford banged his gavel. "Order." Grimsby rested his case. Now it was their turn. James called Kate to the stand. She walked up, hands shaking, swore on the Bible, sat. James stood before her. "Mrs. Holloway, why did you marry me?" "To protect my children." "That's all." Kate looked at him, at this man who'd saved her, who'd chosen her, who'd made her believe in second chances. "No," she said. "That's why I agreed. I stayed because you were kind, you were patient, you saw my children not as burdens, but as blessings. And somewhere along the way, I fell in love with you." Tears ran down James's face. "When did you know?" "The night you held Samuel while he cried. The night you let Nathaniel call you Pa. The night you kissed me, and I realized I wanted to be kissed by you. Every night after." "Do you love me?" "Yes." "Would you stay married to me even if we lost this case? Even if we lost everything?" "Yes, because you're not everything. You're just the man I choose, every day, for the rest of my life." The courtroom was silent. Grimsby stood. "Mrs. Holloway, you were in desperate circumstances when you met Mr. Holloway, correct?" "Yes." "Homeless, penniless, about to lose your children?" "Yes." "So marrying him was convenient?" "It was survival." "Exactly. You used him." Kate's eyes blazed. "I loved my first husband with everything I had. When he died, I thought I'd never love again. But James Holloway taught me that love isn't a finite resource, that hearts can break and heal and break again, that choosing to love after loss is the bravest thing a person can do." She looked at the jury. "So yes, I married him to save my children. But I stay married because I love him. And if you can't see the difference, then you've never really loved anyone." Grimsby had no response. James called Nathaniel next. The boy walked up, scared but determined, swore in, sat. "Nathaniel, do you accept me as your father?" "You're not my father." Gasps. "But you're my pa," Nathaniel continued. "My father was Thomas Morrison. He died a hero. Nobody can replace him. But you're the man who teaches me to be strong, to be brave, to stand up for family. That makes you my pa, and that's enough. Do you think your mother loves me?" "Yes." "How do you know?" "Because she looks at you the way she used to look at my father, like you're her whole world, like she'd fight heaven and hell to keep you." James's voice broke. "Thank you, son," Samuel testified. Then Elizabeth through Samuel's translation. Both saying the same thing. This was their family. Real, chosen, worth fighting for. By the time they finished, half the courtroom was crying. Crawford called closing arguments. Grimsby stood. "Your Honor, these are compelling emotions. But emotions don't change facts. This marriage began as fraud. The law is clear. Annulment is appropriate." James stood. "Your Honor, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a man who found a family when he thought he'd lost everything. Yes, we married fast. Yes, it started as protection. But it became real. We became real. And if you annul this marriage, you're not enforcing law. You're destroying love. And I don't think that's what justice means. Crawford was quiet for a long time. Then, I'll render my decision tomorrow morning. Court adjourned. They walked out into cold afternoon. The children clung to Kate. James held them all. What happens now? Samuel asked. We wait, Kate said, and we pray. That night they gathered around the fire, all 5 of them. Kate read from the Bible. James carved. The children played quietly. Nobody mentioned tomorrow. Nobody mentioned losing. They just existed together, present, grateful. At bedtime, Nathaniel hugged James. Whatever happens, you're still my pa. And you're still my son. Kate tucked the children in, kissed their heads, whispered love. Then she and James lay in bed holding each other. If we lose, Kate started. We won't. But if we do, then we run. We start over. We keep fighting. James kissed her. I'm not giving up on us. Neither am I. They made love that night. Desperate, tender, real. 2 broken people becoming whole in each other's arms. And in the morning, they would face judgment. Together. Tuesday morning came gray and cold. They rode to Deadwood in silence. The courthouse was even more crowded than before. Crawford took the bench. I've reached a decision. Kate couldn't breathe. This case presented unique challenges. The petitioner raised valid concerns about timing and motivation. However, after hearing testimony, examining evidence, and praying for wisdom, I find the following. Crawford looked at them. Marriage is more than a legal contract. It's a covenant, a choice, a commitment to build something together despite obstacles. Mr. and Mrs. Holloway demonstrated that commitment. Their love may have begun in desperation, but it grew into something genuine, something worth protecting. Kate's heart pounded. Therefore, I deny the petition for annulment. This marriage stands. These children remain with their parents. Case dismissed. The courtroom exploded. Cheers, applause, angry shouts from Blackwell. Kate sobbed. James held her. The children rushed forward, wrapping around them. We won, Samuel cried. We won! Blackwell stormed out. Grimsby followed. But Kate didn't care. They'd won. They were safe. They were together. Outside, people congratulated them. Josiah, Mrs. Pritchard, Mrs. Chen, Townsend. Thank you, Kate told the Reverend, for everything. Thank you for reminding me why I became a priest, to protect people, not institutions. They rode home as the sun broke through clouds, golden light on snow. The world washed clean. At the cabin, James built up the fire. Kate made supper. The children played. Normal, beautiful. Home. That night, after the children slept, Kate and James sat on the porch. Their spot. We did it, Kate said. We did. What happens now? James pulled her close. Now we live. We raise these children. We build this ranch. We love each other, every day, for the rest of our lives. What about Blackwell? He'll leave. Men like him always do when they can't win. Kate looked at the graves. Mary and William, silent, peaceful. Do you think they'd approve? She asked. Yes, Mary would love you. Will would adore the children. James kissed her hair. They'd want us to be happy. Are you happy? Yes. For the first time in 3 years, yes. Kate smiled. Me too. They sat in silence. Above them, stars appeared. The wind whispered through pines. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new struggles. But tonight, they had each other. A widow and a widower. 3 orphans. 2 graves. 1 family. Built from brokenness. Forged in fire. Held together by love. Spring came early that year. The snow melted. Grass grew green. Wildflowers bloomed around Mary and William's graves. Kate planted a garden. James taught the boys to ranch. Elizabeth learned to ride. Nathaniel grew tall. Samuel's nightmares faded. Elizabeth started talking again. One morning in May, James came inside with something in his hands. The wooden horse he'd been carving for months. He gave it to Elizabeth. "For you, sweetheart." She held it carefully, traced the wood, looked up at him with enormous eyes. Then she spoke, clear, strong, real. "Thank you, Papa." James's face shattered. He pulled her close, sobbing. Kate watched from the doorway, tears streaming. This was family, not perfect, not easy, but real, and real was enough. That summer they stood before the graves together, all 5 of them, James holding Kate, the children holding each other. "Thank you," James said to Mary and William, "for teaching me to love, for giving me hope, for letting me live again." Kate touched the crosses. "Thank you for taking care of my Thomas, for making sure he's not alone, for sharing James with us." They planted flowers, said prayers, then walked back to the cabin, together. Because home wasn't a place you found. It was a place you built. One hard day, one brave choice, one act of love at a time. And Kate Morrison Holloway had built a home, with a man who'd forgotten how to live, with children who'd forgotten how to hope, with love that refused to die. She'd been rejected by a town, saved by a stranger, married for protection, and loved beyond measure. And that made her the luckiest woman alive. Years later, when people asked about her story, Kate would smile. "I lost everything," she'd say. "Then I found more than I ever dreamed possible." How they'd ask. "A cowboy on a ridge, a cabin in the snow. 3 words that changed my life." What words? Kate would look at James, at their children, at the life they'd built from ruins. And she'd say, "You're home now," because she was. They all were, forever.